Hi, Christian LaFeur here, creator of Get Nonprofit Status and the Nonprofit Launch Kit, where we help you launch your world-changing nonprofit vision into reality. Thanks for joining me in this video training series on how to start a nonprofit organization in 5 days or less. So you want to know the number one fastest and easiest way to get your beginning board together. We're going to cover that here in this short video. The main thing I'm here to do is to make your job as founder or leader of a startup nonprofit as smooth and easy as possible so that you can get on with your mission. This is the step where you're going to learn how to put together what I call your what we do statement and put it to its first good use, which is recruiting board members who believe in your mission and who are loyal to you as founder. You'll use this what we do statement as the foundation of your elevator pitch, which we cover in the next free video. I'll also briefly talk about conflicts of interest when choosing board members and the IRS red flags that would probably spike your application altogether. We'll talk about building your beginning board of loyalists versus beginning a long-term board of directors who can help build your reputation, fundraising capacity, and guide the group toward long-term success. And finally, I'll tell you where to get some documents on my website that'll make your job of lining up a beginning board and conducting your first board meeting a lot easier. So let's get started. The first step is write out your what we do statement. So often I'll meet some passionate social entrepreneur who, if given the chance, just runs on and on about their ideas and totally overwhelms or bores the person who just a few minutes ago was interested to hear a little bit about the founder's new nonprofit. This is not good. Your what we do statement will help you to automatically attract the right people to your cause, and you'll be able to tell right away whether or not this is one of your people who'd like to hear much more information. And that's usually best given in a second opportunity to sit down for a cup of coffee or give a formal presentation. So step one is to write down your what we do statement using this formula. We help insert the community you serve by doing insert the activity that you do so that insert the result that you expect to get. How would the world be different if you achieved your mission? This formula is key. Get it down and learn it. As I said a moment ago, this will be the essence of your elevator pitch, and it'll really get enough information across so that the person you're talking with can make that all-important subconscious decision. Is this an organization I want to get involved with? Now, the next step is avoiding conflicts of interest when choosing your board members. The principal conflicts of interest are close connections, outside relationships, and self-dealing, and excessive benefit or compensation. IRS concerns over this question are aimed at separately established organizations that have or plan to have a close relationship involving sharing or coordinating finances, employees, or activities. If you don't share funds or board members or employees or cooperatively run activities with a non-exempt group, which really means a for-profit company or something that isn't tax-exempt, then a close connection is not a concern. If you do have a close connection, it's usually okay if disclosed properly and if it doesn't sort of inure benefit, as the IRS puts it, or give benefit to any one person in a way that would not meet tax-exempt status. Also, the IRS is concerned about outside relationships among board members and key employees. You see, the IRS understands that often husbands and wives or other family members or people that have business relationships often believe in a mutual cause or idea. And as long as it's disclosed, like I said, these relationships are fine. Another area of caution is called self-dealing, and that simply means is the nonprofit benefiting a decision maker by perhaps steering lucrative advertising contracts to one board member's ad firm. This is frowned upon and could get your tax-exempt status denied or entirely revoked if you don't disclose and demonstrate that no one is benefiting unduly. And there are ways to get that done, and we can help you with that here. Finally, excessive benefit or compensation is pretty self-explanatory. Like the rest of these, you can apply the smell test. If you're raising $100,000 and your founding board member's salary is $90,000, the IRS is not going to be very favorable toward approving. Okay, next step, let's cover deciding who to include on your board and the recruitment process. Here are 3 principles I recommend for brand new startup nonprofits who are looking for board members. Principle number 1, do not stress out or overcomplicate this process. Like the other elements we've gone over so far, and those we'll cover later, you need to get through this without getting overwhelmed or getting stuck. Often it's not easy to find enough people to be on your initial board of directors or to find people who are willing to make a serious commitment. It's probably more important early on to make sure your board is understanding, flexible, and loyal to you. They need to respect your vision for your nonprofit, and you can get important board members later. As you bring on more experienced and maybe even deep-pocketed directors, you can gradually retire your best friend or that old college professor who's willing to do you the favor of sitting on your beginning board. Now, I'm going to say something here that many nonprofit advisors out there may disagree with. In the early stages of framing your nonprofit, you don't need fundraising powerhouses on your board, especially if this is your first go-around at forming a nonprofit. You can get onto some of that stuff later. Right now, you just need to get your entity up and running, so let's keep it simple. So my suggestion is to put yourself on the board and bring 2 to 4 additional people on, people who are reasonably close to you, and create a board consent action form for your first board meeting. That'll allow you to exercise basic powers on behalf of the organization, so you don't have to have a board meeting every time you want to buy some pencils. You can get one of those forms right on my website at getnonprofitstatus.com, where you're probably seeing this video. Principle number 2, appoint friends if you can, family if you have to. For these purposes, family members and business partners are both considered to have outside relationships that could lead to abuse of tax-exempt status. That's why such relationships need to be disclosed. And I say, why complicate things? Unless you're a private or family foundation where it's perfectly natural to have parents, siblings, and cousins on your board, keep these to a minority. IRS agents in the exempt organizations department aren't unreasonable. They understand that small and startup nonprofits have unique challenges. They just need to be able to do their job, which is to protect the public interest in keeping organizations that are applying to them for tax-exempt status from being abused by their founders, directors, and officers. Finally, understand that it's not usually a major conflict to have shared directors whose only connection is membership on another 501c3 board of directors. So if your church is starting a separate soup kitchen ministry, it's probably okay to have the exact same board makeup as long as it's disclosed. But again, the less you have to disclose and explain, the easier the process of obtaining nonprofit tax-exempt status from the IRS. Principle number 3, make their job easy. It's hard enough to ask people to serve on your board, so make it easy for them. You don't need to overly formalize things, but having a welcome packet of information for them to read would be very helpful so they understand what you do, how you expect things to go, and what exactly is expected of them. One of the minimum things you need your board members to do is fill one of 3 primary officer positions: president, secretary, or treasurer. There are some simple responsibilities that go along with these positions, but a founder who's doing his or her job can make it as easy as reviewing properly kept books done by a bookkeeper, approving basic minutes for your initial board meeting, and making sure your annual filings are kept up to date. I've provided a basic checklist of things you might want to ask your board members to do on the resources page at getnonprofitstatus.com. Each director isn't necessarily expected to do every one of the items on the list, but you can sit down and go over the items and check off the ones he or she feels comfortable with, making sure that the essentials are covered. Early on, it's better to have full commitment from a director to do 2 or 3 basic things you need done, instead of having a large list that seems to be either overwhelming or just gets ignored. The last step is getting commitments on paper. There are a few basic documents you'll want to have ready to go for your first board meeting. Those are your conflict of interest policy, a consent to serve, consent action authorizing you to have basic powers to conduct business, which I just mentioned, a waiver of notice for a board meeting. That way you can call board meetings without an overly formalized 60-day waiting period or something in the future, your first meeting agenda, and someone to prepare minutes. So, to wrap this all up and to make this as simple as it can be, let's just recap the main elements of this video and outline your action items. First, write your what we do statement and commit it to memory. It'll serve as a powerful tool for you in all you do. Next, understand the conflicts of interest and avoid or disclose them. Then appoint yourself as a board member and go recruit as few as 2 friends, avoiding those who share a formal business relationship with you or each other. Don't overcomplicate this by looking for people with hard-to-find skill sets or a fat checkbook, because you can build a more long-term board later once you get your IRS letter of exemption and tax-exempt status off the ground. Finally, download the basic documents you'll need from my website at getnonprofitstatus.com. So that's about it. Go check out my other free videos by going to getnonprofitstatus.com so you can move on to filling out your 1023 application for tax-exempt status. Get Nonprofit Status has all the tools you'll need for the 1023. Now, if you like what you see here, please leave a comment. If you have a question, post it below and I'll try to answer it. And please hit the like button. Tell your friends. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.